Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and oh god, excuse me, sorry. I just had my dinner and dessert, and so figures that as soon as I would start doing a review that like boom. But anyways, I am here today to review Ed Kemper, which is obviously, if you guys don't know, it's the new movie about the serial killer Ed Kemper. I think that might be a meme. That could easily be a meme. Like, okay, this movie is the name of the person, and then, oh, it's all about this person. You know, it's like, yeah, no shit. And so I heard off and on about this movie. I think I remember hearing something about it, and I just saw it pop up online, and I was like, you know what? It's all these like serial killer movies for the most part, they're pretty short and sweet, and usually they are fun to watch at the very least. You know, like especially last year with that hilarious John Wayne Gacy movie, which might be one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. This movie, it started off really, really badly. To the point of where I was like, okay, this is like an SNL sketch. The main guy playing Ed Kemper, he doesn't really remind me of Ed Kemper very much. He reminds me a lot of like, there's this one actor guy. I don't know who he is. He might be the guy who played the Herman in Rob Zombie's The Munsters. Like, for some reason, he reminds me of that guy. Something about his voice and his smile or something. He reminds me a lot of this regular actor friend of Rob Zombie's who works with him. He doesn't really remind me of Ed Kemper, and I think that, you know, making this movie was kind of a mistake because, you know, they did that Mindhunter show, and although I did not like either season of this show, I saw great potential in it, and I thought that Ed Kemper, he was one of the best things about it. You know, that was some of the only good stuff in that show was the whole dynamic and the scenes between him and the Agent Robert Wrestler, sorry. That was like the best stuff in Mindhunter Season 1. And so it's like, you know, why even make this movie when you have such perfection? I mean, the casting with Mindhunter was perfection. They got the perfect guy to play Ed Kemper. He's perfect for the role. He does such a great job. And then you go to this movie, and it's like, no matter how good or bad this movie could have been, it was always going to be compared to that Mindhunter show. It was always going to be compared to that casting, that other actor. And so I think that this movie had an uphill battle. And the way that it started off, it was really goofy and silly. It kind of reminded me of a play. And Ed Kemper's mother, she also feels very much like an SNL caricature. You know, she starts off like just everything about these two is just so silly and unbelievable, and like you're just watching actors act. It doesn't really feel like you're watching characters. You're watching people, I mean. You're watching real people with a real story to tell. And as the movie goes on, though, surprisingly, because at a certain point, I was almost going to turn it off. I was like, you know, I'm not in the mood to watch this. This doesn't seem very good. But for some reason, I was so interested in the movie that I just kept on watching and watching and watching. And so I can't even say this is a really bad movie because at the very least, I was so interested that I just wanted to keep watching it and you know, finish it and see how it all came together, you know. But also at a certain point, this is where it gets interesting. There were some actual good things in the movie. there were quite a few moments and quite a few scenes where I was like, oh wow, there was that little cool thing that happened there. There was that little cool snippet that happened there. And in particular, I loved the ending. I thought that the ending was really, really genius to do because it was kind of like a recreation of Mindhunter in a way, because they showed the real interaction between Wrestler and Kemper, the one where they were alone in the room together, which is fucking hilarious that they would allow that to happen. Even back then, it's like, what, really? Like, it's very, very funny. And, but the ending is the best part because at the very end, you actually feel like, I don't know, like somehow like maybe the actor, maybe he watched Mindhunter and he based his whole performance on that show. Because to me, the actor, he felt the most comfortable in the role when he was in that prison interview room. Because it was like he could finally be himself. Throughout the movie, you know, he's very repressed and he's very, very like to himself and introverted, and you know, he's always like putting on a mask for his mother. His mother's very, very bizarre character. And but at the end he's just like, hey, I'm Ed fucking Kemper. And I love that the last line of the movie too was please don't forget me or something like that. I thought that was kind of creepy and kind of cool. I thought that was a great idea. And so the ending of the movie was the part where I was like, damn, like, you know, this movie wasn't so bad. It had a lot of bad stuff about it. Like, number one, I would say the guy playing Ed Kemper, he reminds me way too much of that other actor. He doesn't really remind me of Ed Kemper as much. I think that Ed was taller. He looked taller. He looks taller in pictures. And there's something about him. He's like a Frankenstein's monster. And this guy, he's more like a mama's boy. He's more like a shorter mama's boy character. And yeah. And the mom is a very interesting character because, you know, apparently in real life, it has been suggested that she had BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder means that you are probably evil, because I knew a borderline person last year. She was evil with a capital E, and she was horrible, horrible person, and probably one of the worst people that I've ever known. And, you know, a lot of people who have borderline personality disorder, they'll be the first one to tell you that, like, stay away from me because I'll ruin your life, because that's what those people do. You know, they cause destruction in everyone's lives that's around them. And yeah. But my issue with this character was the fact that, like, as the movie went on and on and on, they almost tried to make her seem sympathetic. And I know, obviously, like, she didn't deserve to get killed, and she didn't deserve to have her body, like, mutilated and cut up and whatever. Sorry. But she was an abusive mother, and she was an alcoholic, and she had borderline personality. She was not... As the movie goes on, it almost seems like they're trying to make her into this character that she's not. And it's like that hopeful attitude of like, oh, well, maybe she really wanted to be a good mother, or she was just so messed up or something. It's like, no, it's like, just let her be evil. Because just because she's evil doesn't give him the right necessarily to kill her. I mean, if it's a Menendez brothers situation, I mean, have at it. I mean, those guys, they were heroes for what they did to their fucking disgusting parents. But Ed Kemper's mother, you know, you could have portrayed her as full-blown evil, you know, and it wouldn't have mattered because, you know, it's like he's the one who killed her. So the audience is going to look at him as the bad guy because he killed her. You know, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, her character, the actress actually did a great job in terms of playing that other character. Like I mean, I'm not really too sure because I have not done a lot of research on Ed Kemper. I am really really well versed in like serial killer stuff, but Ed Kemper is one of the ones that I just don't really care about at all. And but I don't know a lot about the real story, but it just feels like from what I've seen and from what it feels like, it's like they tried to make her sympathetic because maybe they thought the audience would be like, "Oh yeah, get her at the end" or something. Like I don't know because it just because at the beginning she was totally whacked up, just completely out of this world, insane. And then as it went along, it was like they peeled back layers to this character. And it's like, some characters don't have layers. Like Ed Kemper himself, like, that's a guy who is like, I don't even know what he is. I don't even know, like, how he became the person he became. He's a puzzle. And his mom, maybe she was just evil. Maybe she was just evil. Like, you don't have to, some people are just evil. You don't have to have, like, oh, well, there was one scene in particular that was really, really reaching. And I don't know if this happened in real life. She meets up with the priest, and they're in church, and it's really nicely shot. I gotta say, for an indie movie, this movie has quite a few really good shots. I really like this one shot where Ed was up late watching television, and you just saw the reflection of the TV on his glasses. And then there was another shot that they kind of ruined, where he was driving on a road at night, and it kind of looked like Lost Highway, but they used it twice. And so it kind of was like, oh, you're just reusing that same shot, but just adding a little more. That was kind of shitty. But what? God, I lost what I was going to say. Shit. Oh, yeah, okay. So they're in the church together, and there's this golden sunlight, and it's coming down on them, and it's just like, wow, look at this beautiful, like, oh, this is like a saintly character. She's just a nice mother, wants to be a good mother, and she's like, her concern was that Ed Kemper, like, said that he raped and killed a girl, so he wants to get the smell off of him by taking a shower. And it's interesting because the way that they played the scene, it was like, if you just isolated that scene alone, you never would have known that this was like an abusive mother. You never would have known that this character was such a vile person behind the scenes to her son. And then there are a lot of other scenes where they show that. They show that vile side. Like, there was one scene that I thought was really good where he gave his mom like a card or something because he missed her and she was on a trip, and she came back and she just straight up threw the card in the garbage. And it was like, wow, like, that is typical, like, abusive parent behavior. And that was like a perfect moment to show just how evil this character really is. But also, I thought another thing that was really strange was how her death scene was filmed. Because pretty much, I think probably some of the genius in this movie, it lies in the fact that the whole movie, it's building up to him killing his mother. Because if you know at least just a little bit about Ed Kemper as a character, you know that he killed some girls, and then he killed his mother, and then he did stuff with her head. Well, the whole movie, it's building up to that. And so I can see also maybe they wanted to make her sympathetic a little bit more so that you would feel really, really badly about what was coming, and so that you would be really like, oh, no, don't come. Please don't come, Ed Kemper. Like, yeah, I don't know. And then also, I gotta say something else that I liked. And I know, by the way, I've been saying a lot of things that I've liked about the movie, which I kind of didn't expect, but it's not terrible. Like, if it's not terrible, then I can't lie and say, like, oh, this was really, really bad. But it did have a lot of bad stuff. It's just, I'll get there. I love the fact that they didn't shy away from the violence and the rape and the cruelty and the brutal nature of these crimes, because it seems like nowadays, especially when it comes to nudity and when it comes to sexuality, we've become such a Puritan, stupid society where, like, we can show really graphic, brutal violence and nobody cares. But then when you have a movie like Oppenheimer, where you have, like, characters being naked on screen, for some reason it's treated like it's some huge offense against movies. And this movie, it didn't shy away from the real shit that happened. And at certain points, it kind of caught me off guard, because I was like, wow, I didn't expect a filmmaker to have the balls to actually make this stuff shown on screen, like to show it in this graphic detail. At one point too, I gotta say, probably one of the worst parts of this movie was this part where Ed Kemper was taking pictures of these body parts that he chopped up, these female heads. It was such a comedic sequence. It was almost kind of laughable, and it didn't scream creepy and sick and disgusting. It felt like an SNL skit to me. And there were a lot of points in the movie where it had that feeling, and it kind of took me out of it, because the movie actually did a good job at, like, setting and maintaining a creepy tone at certain points. But then you would get to these, like, SNL bits where it's like, I'm the stupid, dumb Ed Kemper. I'm taking pictures of a female head I just cut off. And that's what Ed Kemper is like in this movie, by the way. Like, hey, everybody, this is Ed Kemper. Hey, Bernie, the cat's sitting over there. And so basically the whole movie is a montage of him in his car after these sequences with his mom, where he's like, Mommy, why don't you like me? And then he just gets really pissed off, and he's like, ah! And it's like, dude, just whack off or something. Just fucking go work out or whack off and watch King of the Hill or some shit. Like, you don't have to go do this shit. But instead he gets in his car and he finds some girl, and he's also kind of a pedophile, because at a certain point this girl gets in his car and she's like, oh my god, my teacher is gonna kill me because I'm late to class, or something like that, and he's like, a teacher? You're in a class? And she's in, like, a schoolgirl outfit, and it's almost like he got turned on when he heard that she was a schoolgirl. And so there's also that element of the movie that they don't really explore, is the fact that, like, some of these, and I looked up too, some of these young girls, they weren't 18 or older, they were younger, they were in their teens. And so that element of, like, him being a pedophile wasn't really explored very much in the movie. It was just kind of like, oh, he's a creepy guy. And so he's in his car, he's like, hey, you want to get in a car with Ed Kemper? Hey, you want to go out for a ride somewhere? And then these girls would just, and I know nowadays too, like, especially nowadays, like, they'd take one look at Ed Kemper and they'd be like, no, I'm not getting in the car with you. I get in the car with Ted Bundy still, but I would never get in a car with you. And then he just drives them to the middle of nowhere, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna kill you now. And then I'm gonna rape you a couple times for good measure. And he takes out his little gun and he's like, did you hear? I'm the co-ed killer. it's so silly. It's so silly at some points. Probably my favorite scene in the movie. You know, there was this victim, I don't know her name, but he picked her up and he took her out somewhere and he put tape on her mouth and he had her get in the back seat, and then he got out of his car for a second and he locked himself out of his car and he left the gun in his car. And unfortunately for her, she unlocked the door for him to get back in. And that was just like, wow, that was classic suspense. And it was classic, like, you know, suspense was, I think, what you can tell when you're watching good suspense is that you get a really bad stomach ache. Because you just sense that something bad's going to happen, and then Ed Kemper gets in the car with you, and you're fucked. And so, yeah. I'm trying to think of what else I could mention, because overall, like, it wasn't a terrible movie. I mean, it definitely had kind of a cheap quality to it, but I've seen so many worse movies, and I've seen so many movies, like, at this level, or even less of this level, like at lower levels, like Sean C. Phillips's movies, and they're just so abysmal. You know, this movie, it felt like it had an artistic merit to it. It felt like the people who made it, like, they really tried. And you know, there were some things that I didn't like, though, and one of the things I didn't like was some of the dialogue was pretty bad, especially in the beginning. And, you know, I've had trouble because I've been trying to write... Oh, I've been in the process of writing a true crime project, and it's going to be a pretty big endeavor. It's still very fresh, and I think it's just so daunting to me that I almost get, like, anxiety, like, writing it, and so I end up screwing it up, and I'm like, it's just kind of like, it's like when you stand in front of a mountain, and you think, like, how am I going to climb this mountain? You know, and but when people write true crime movies, they have a tendency to look at the Wikipedia page for the serial killer or the whatever murders, and they my cat wants to leave. Bernie, I'm doing Ed Kemper review. You were in here. What did you think of Ed Kemper? I will let you go if you tell the audience what you thought of Ed Kemper 2025. What'd you think? Okay, that was a little, like, I don't know what that means. Does it mean you liked it? Okay, I don't know what sorry, guys. That's not a very good review. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, guys. He can go drink water and walk around and bother Safi. Safi from Safi and Marco dish out on movies. But anyways, people have a tendency, especially in true crime movies, to take little snippets from Wikipedia articles and Wikipedia, you know, paragraphs, and then they basically work that into the script in terms of even with dialogue. Like, there was this one line where it's like, oh, you know, Santa Carla is the murder capital of the world. And it's lines like that where it's like, they try to play it off natural, but you can feel that it's the writer inserting these little bits and pieces from Wikipedia into the story so that he can make sure that he checks all the boxes. Like, there's another part where him and his friend, he had, like, one friend in the whole movie, and he was, like, a weird guy. That was funny, too. Like, I was like, you know, I've never really heard about Ed Kemper having friends. Like, did he ever have any friends? Like, some of the worst serial killers had some really good friends. But it doesn't seem like he has very many, or if any. And but he just has this one really weird friend, and he's this weird-looking guy. And they're sitting in the middle of nowhere, and it's hot out, and his friend is like, is that egg salad? And it's like, they just had to mention egg salad because I guess Ed Kemper really likes egg salad or something, or yeah, and they talked about that in Mindhunter too. But it's like they just felt like they had to bring up certain topics, they had to bring up certain things from the Wikipedia article and kind of just shoehorn them in there. And then, let's see. I would say, too, you could just look at this movie as a good horror movie. You don't even really have to think about the true story because it actually, to me, would work better as just a horror movie without the true story, because I think that the thing that my main review would be, I guess, is that they talk a lot about how in real life, Ed Kemper is so forthcoming about everything, or he was. And he was just like, oh yeah, I did this and that, and I picked up a girl and I took her out to the middle of nowhere, and I said, hey, I'm the co-ed killer. He was very, very honest. And so you'd think that if they made a movie, if they made a full-length movie about this guy, that you would have a really, really good understanding of who he was. But you don't. And I think that makes this movie not as good, is because you walk away not really knowing that much more about Ed Kemper than when you did before you even saw the movie. I would say that the people who made this movie, their definition of like going into detail and in depth about Ed's illness and about his mental issues is like, let's show him screaming in a car, let's show him having like nightmare visions and hallucinating people, which wouldn't that mean he's schizophrenic? But it didn't really go past the surface level. Last week I watched Neighborhood Watch, which was all about a schizophrenic guy, and I thought that movie was going to treat schizophrenia like a gimmick, and it didn't, and that was the surprise about it. It was very, very real, or it felt real, whereas this movie kind of treated it like a gimmick. They even had his father, he dressed up like a devil, and he was like a cartoon character in these visions, and it was just really, really strange. I would say, though, that the people who made this movie, they needed to watch a movie like In Cold Blood. Because In Cold Blood gave you a really good look into the minds, into the characters of these two guys who committed this awful crime that they committed when they killed the... God, I can't... How do I forgot... No, oh, come on. The family, the shit. How did I forget the family, the something? Come on. Dang it. Okay, but when those two guys killed that family in that movie, you knew so much about these two characters that in the movie, it built up to that crime, just like this movie built up to him killing his mom. But the way that it built up to that crime, you actually felt sorry for one of these characters who committed this crime, and you actually kind of felt sorry for both of them, because they almost like peer pressured themselves into going in and committing this murder. And then when they get arrested and they're going to be executed, you actually feel more sorry for these two bad guys than you did for the family. Because it's like, murder is wrong, no matter if it's committed by, a person or by the government. And so you're watching, especially the one guy, Perry, he's so nervous about getting executed, and he's scared shitless. And you completely lose it because you feel so sorry for him, and you know so much about him as a person. You can't say the same for this movie with Ed Kemper. He's still a mystery at the end of the movie. And I think that that's the biggest problem I have with it, is because I expected to be like an Ed Kemper expert after this movie and really, really see his mindset and see like why he did what he did, and I just don't see it. It, to me, this movie just, it kind of feels like he got a little mad sometimes, like that was the movie's reason for his killings. So in terms of food, I don't know. Okay, I have a good one. I've been going to Taco Bell recently. Sometimes I went there in early March when I was filming with someone. And then I went again yesterday at a different one. But if you guys remember from my birthday last year, for some reason, every time I go to Taco Bell, I get a chicken quesadilla, which is my favorite thing on the menu. Safi actually introduced it to me back when I was in third grade or second grade. She had gotten one for herself, and she thought it was too spicy, and she gave me half of one, and it was like cold. And I was playing Call of Duty Big Red 1, and it was like the tastiest thing I've ever eaten, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. And so every time I go to Taco Bell, I get a chicken quesadilla. And recently, the one around me, or the most local one, the one closest to me, they do not put any sauce in the quesadilla. And that's what this movie is missing. It's missing sauce. It's missing that extra ingredient that just brings everything together, because it just feels, again, like an SNL skit at points. But it's still, I would say, a worthwhile movie. Like, I would recommend this movie. It's a fun movie. It's obviously, it's very, very gruesome at some points. I will say that. Like, you'll probably be surprised like me. You'll be like, wow, I didn't know they would still show this kind of stuff nowadays, because, our society is so uptight, and they're so, they're such babies about everything. And so they can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. Which is funny. I haven't even ever seen that movie, by the way, A Few Good Men. I've never seen that movie. But I obviously I know that one. So anyways, please like this video, comment. What did you guys think of Ed Kemper? Because I know that this video, I don't really have a structure for my reviews. I don't really have like a script or anything. So I kind of just go all over the place. And at the end, I'm like, whew, you know what I mean? And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon. And by the way, I will be seeing Thunderbolts next week. I ended up canceling today because I don't know. I didn't feel like going to see a movie after seeing one on Tuesday, and I just kind of was like, I also needed to vote, which we have like a little special election in Ohio right now in early May, and Safi and I thought that we sent our ballot requests in too late, and so we wanted to go in and vote in person just to be on the safe side. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.